Hey, what's up everyone, Raging Golden Eagle here, having way too much fun as always. So the first few games being developed directly by the new studio Honey Parade Games have finally come out, and at least when it comes to the latest mobile iteration of Senran Kagura, that being Shinobi Master Senran Kagura New Link, there seems to be censorship abound and fans ain't too happy. As you can see by these screenshot comparisons on your screen right now, not only have they drastically reduced the bust sizes of these girls, they've also heavily altered some of the outfits to make them less revealing. And if you look close enough, you also notice that all of them seem to have thinner thighs and hips as well. And especially when you consider the fact that this is a Japan-only game and probably will stay that way, you gotta wonder, is this the beginning of the end for Senran Kagura? I personally don't think so, not yet anyway, and I'm gonna get into why shortly. But for now, let's get into a little bit about some of the speculations that they're giving us. One possibility is, now that Honey Parade Games is taking care of things, they simply have a different idea of what the proportions should be than what Tamsoft did all these years. And well, if that's the case, I just gotta say, tough. If you want to add new characters in with new body types, then add new characters in. Right now, you have the perfect opportunity to do so if you want to continue with the main storyline. A whole bunch of characters are graduating or otherwise leaving their teams, so this is the perfect time to introduce some new ones. And they can be whatever body type you want. But making alterations this big to existing characters that we've all known for like the past 5 years? Look at the American comic book industry to see how well that goes. Maybe it would be best to let Tamsoft handle this after all, huh? Another possibility is the owners of the mobile app markets, namely Google and Apple, are unleashing another wave of strict censorship and regulations. And while that is a possibility, I highly doubt that's the case, because the previous Senran Kagura mobile game New Wave didn't make any changes of this nature. And on top of that, you got other games out there like even Fate Grand Order that are allowed to get away with characters like Artemis and Jack the Ripper, and as far as I know anyway, Google and Apple aren't making any threats at them. So it just seems kinda fishy to me. It is entirely possible that simply having the name Senran Kagura just made them a bigger target, but at this point it seems that the problem may be that they just simply didn't fight back hard enough if that's the case. And if this does ultimately end up being the reason, which we may or may not find out at some point in the future because at the moment they haven't said what the reason is, then this is yet another example of why we need to stay away from these damn walled garden marketplaces. But all that aside, the most likely explanation in my opinion is that the team that the newly formed Honey Parade Games decided to assign to make this game simply has no idea what they're doing. Because other than these censorship issues, the game is pretty dang unstable, going down for, I hear, days at a time from some people. And when it does work, it's apparently pretty mediocre and not really all that fun to play. The general consensus among the players in Japan seems to be that, well, it's forgettable. Not a position a niche game wants to be in. And before I move on, I have to reiterate something I mentioned in a previous video on pretty much the similar topic to this, when I was going over about how some Western interests are trying to censor Japanese games at the source. And that is, when you have a niche title like this, the fans are usually willing to overlook the fact that your game is mediocre. For the record, I don't think Senran Kagura is mediocre, it's usually a little bit above average. But even then, we are willing to overlook that fact, the fact that gameplay-wise anyway, there's way better games out there, because this specific property gives us something we can't find anywhere else. If you tone down on whatever that something is, you can't expect your fans to stick around. Because if you remove the one thing you really have going for you, then all those other flaws are going to be much easier to see. So since Honey Parade Games is a completely new studio, hopefully this is just a screw-up and a misstep on their part and they're going to correct it later. I don't believe this is the future of the whole franchise because if you look at everything else that's coming out, it's painting a completely different picture. The one they just put out on the Nintendo Switch not only didn't tone anything down, but you could say they actually took the fan service up more than just a few notches. The footage we've seen of Senran Kagura Burst Renewal also seemed to point to the fact that they don't plan on going back on anything. The real test though will be what they do with Senran Kagura 7. If they continue with what they've shown of Burst Renewal, then we have nothing to worry about. We may have to wait and see, but I don't think that Peach Beach Splash will be the height of the franchise. At least I like to hope it won't. So far, the home console and by extension PC releases are looking like they're going to be perfectly okay. Mobile though, let's just forget it even exists. And that's all I gotta say guys, thanks for listening.